First, across 25 years and 5 planning cycles, not one state or regional water plan ever projected that the city of Corpus Christi would run short of water during the 2020s for its municipal needs. The same was true for Alice, Beeville, Rockport, Portland, Ingleside, Mathis, and other communities at the center of this crisis. In fact, the water supply plans for these cities said, and I quote, "No shortages are projected in every planning cycle." The very plans meant to warn these cities of potential drought-induced shortages never identified the problem. Second, at a regional level, the plans from each planning cycle did not consistently indicate that the coastal bend, as a region, would face water supply shortages during this decade. Some plans projected a water supply surplus for the coastal bend in the 2020s. Others projected a shortage, only to have another set of plans indicate that there would be a surplus. Consequently, a community reading these plans in sequence had no stable warning signal to act on. The plans did flag shortages for some individual water user groups, but those shortages were mostly groundwater or water treatment plant limits, and they came and went from one planning cycle to the next. Lastly, we found that the plans from each cycle recommended a different mix or menu of water management strategies for the 2020s. Some of these recommended strategies were to address local water shortages, whereas others were included as a planning cushion against uncertain growth or implementation risk. If the plans were meant to be a blueprint for building the water supply portfolio needed for growth and drought resilience, the plans never settled on what that blueprint should look like or it should contain. Together, these findings point to a bigger conclusion that the plans did not foresee the crisis that happened and didn't create the urgency to build water supply projects in time. In fact, of the 50 strategies the last plan recommended for this decade, only one of them had been built according to the most recent state water plans data, and that was the brackish groundwater desalination plant in the city of Alice. Mr. Chairman, this doesn't mean Texas should abandon water planning. To the contrary, Texas must have a water plan. The regional process established by Senate Bill 1 is the correct foundation, and it remains our best, most logical policy approach. And to be clear, our analysis finds that both the Water Development Board and regional planners followed the law as established by Senate Bill 1 nearly 30 years ago when developing these plans. Thanks to Proposition 4, Texas is about to make historic investments in water infrastructure. Those investments will be guided by the state water plan. The legislature has an opportunity to revisit SB 1 and apply the lessons learned from the coastal bend. Our report includes several recommendations here. First, build in a phase to update the models, data, and science behind the plans, and consider a slightly longer planning cycle so there's time to make appropriations for those updates. Second, replace the menu of recommended water management strategies with an actionable implementation framework, organized by purpose and urgency with start dates and completion milestones for project delivery. Third, plans should be stress tests for droughts worse than a drought of record. And finally, among other recommendations, plans need to do a better job of tracking implementation progress over time. These recommendations are based on our report's observations of what happened in the coastal bend, and they are sincerely offered in the spirit of making the water plan and the state's regional water planning process better. Thank you for your time.